welcome to Meet the Leaders.
Thank you.
Welcome folks back again. This is Meet the Leaders and today is going to be special.
Yeah, it's my first time and the interview is with
Shashank San. Thank you for making this happen. It's your support that has gotten us here. I think I should just stop talking. Let's just get Shashank San spearheads sales and marketing for Nexa, Maruti Suzuki, Arena, True Value. And it's the largest car maker in the country.
I have never been this nervous.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, Ameya from Zig Wheels.
Yeah, I'm Rohan from PowerDrift. Actually, together we form the largest auto content creator gamut of the country.
Of the country, yeah.
Shashank San, I'm a bit nervous right now. So my first question is, do you still have butterflies in your stomach for interviews or?
Not really for interviews, but yes, butterflies related to market and related to in conditions in the industry, economy, yes, definitely.
Sir, do you remember your first job interview?
Yes, I remember. In fact, this is also my first job, by the way. Oh. So immediately after my MBA, I joined Maruti Suzuki. It was a long time back, more than 30 years back. I remember our finance director was there, the then finance director, the head of corporate planning. And I remember those questions as to why you want to join Maruti Suzuki and so on and so forth.
Were you nervous in that interview?
Yes, I was. And the reason for my nervousness was that I wanted to be very much in Maruti Suzuki, and because I had a passion for automobiles. And during that time, Maruti Suzuki was the only company with reasonably good technology. Unfortunately, Maruti Suzuki has always led the Indian market right since its inception. And here we are sitting after 30 years or more than that actually.
The journey must have been tremendous, right? What was the source of inspiration for such a journey for you?
First of all, one big thing which I thought that when I joined, immediately after that there was a big economic crisis in the country. Automobile was contributing at that time less than 1% of the GDP, and I had read that in good economies, auto industry roughly contributes to almost 10%. So that was some sort of not an inspiration, it was some sort of that I can also contribute to the overall economy of the country, and that drove me. And obviously cars was a passion for me. When I joined the corporate planning department. Was directly under Mr. Bhargav, who was the MD at that time. He used to take me for meetings. Basically, I used to take notes, somewhat like executive assistants do. When I went through, I could realize that there is a whole ecosystem of automobile beyond just the car and the product itself. So you have investments in capacities, for example. So those documents I used to read assiduously. And then we were partly a government company because government had a large stake. So I remember we used to have price approvals, changes in prices used to be approved at the government level. And that was like a really good learning for me. And that's how Mr. Bhargav inspired me in that sense.
You said that you were already in love with automobiles. When did your love for automobiles begin?
My father was one of the few people who had a car. In those days, cars were very far and few, which was very old. And he used to ask me to clean the car while he used to get ready for office. I could manage courage to start driving off a little bit. My father didn't know. I think he never knew.
I have one pertinent question here. Your designation states Senior Executive Officer, Marketing and Sales.
Yeah.
As a startup, we are just starting out, and I can't wrap my head around this. Hear this out. Corporate brand, Nexa, media strategy, True Value. That's juggling a whole lot of things. As we remember your first few days here at Maruti Suzuki, back then, did you know you were meant for such greatness?
First of all, I don't think it's really great because, as the automobile industry grew, you could see these lines of business emerging. So we have today, for example, Maruti Finance. or Maruti Insurance, or we have the extended warranty separate section dealing with that. True value, as you mentioned,
Yes.
the used car getting more and more organized. And we are now number 4 in the world in terms of country-wise sale, if you see. Then these other areas emerged. And we need to do something to manage it. So we created obviously teams to manage it, and that's how I'm in looking at so many different.
Something on those lines, like obviously you're handling so much. What does your day look like? Like, do you even sleep? Because you're
3 a.m. club, 4 a.m.
I
club.
require at least 7 hours sleep to feel generally relaxed. But the key thing is to manage time is also, of course, to delegate the work as much as possible. And actually, I found delegation not only helps you to manage your business and time better, but also actually motivates the other people also. I was reading a quote, I don't remember the exact quote, that the success of a leader is actually how many leaders he makes and not how many followers he has. So when you ask me how do you manage, and we say, of course, it's through, I think, largely delegation. But you have to have clarity of where the business is going.
Absolutely.
And what do you expect each LOBs to deliver at different times.
Now, you spoke of teams. It naturally stands to reason that there would be certain qualities that you look for when either creating a leader or for your teams. What are the kind of qualities that?
For me, number one is energy. However qualified one may be, if you don't have that energy, I think it's you can't really contribute to the organization or the objectives. Second, I also would value over individual brilliance, empathy and teamwork. That I believe is important to get final results. Third thing which I mentioned briefly is also to look at their attitudes.
Energy, empathy, and attitude is.
I tick all the boxes.
That's a bad attitude, right? I mean,
He ticks all the boxes or he ticks none of them?
No, all of them.
on energy, I give you guys 100 out of 100. I don't
thank
know
you.
about empathy or the other. Attitude also is, I think, okay.
let's ask you a tough question here then, sir. Shashank San, and I'm privileged to be asking this to you. Would you then hire me?
For me.
Who would you choose?
Yeah.
One of the things I think a leadership has to be frank.
Yeah.
And
What's coming at us?
and straight. Of course, I think you are great for the work you do, but I'm looking at from a different perspective. And of course, I'm just joking. I think you guys are you tick all the boxes.
Thank you
His
so much.
attitude is a little question mark.
Yikes.
But I'll still pick you both.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am also going to make some corrections right away. You will see them here.
I think we should talk about COVID. I think COVID
Yeah.
was a very difficult period for everyone, and especially for a large organization like Maruti Suzuki,
Yeah.
for that matter,
Yeah.
right? Managing everything,
Yeah.
being on your toes, being agile in terms of changing things.
It's a great question actually, and related to COVID, which you rightly put out. There was like tectonic changes, both in the way organizations worked, certainly for Maruti Suzuki also, and also I believe the way consumers started thinking, the process they follow for purchasing goods and so on and so forth. About 40% of our inquiries started coming through digital because the walk-ins were not there. So we realized the power of our digital platforms at that time. We had a group and we started looking and saying that let's use the modern analytic tools, and we started employing the artificial intelligence and ML tools, and we found some really good things. And the same thing applies to product as well. For
Right.
example, we are doing experiment where we can monitor the retina real time of drivers, and if the guy is a little disturbed or drowsy or he's looking around, for example, then we know he's distracted, and you can actually warn him that he's
Right.
distracted. But on the sales side itself, I will tell you an example. There was this Wagoner customer who bought a vehicle from us, a Wagoner, in 2004. That was the time when we had this DMS, the transactional data system that we have. We had more information about him. We knew that his daughter would be graduating out of college. Our system threw up that she's a possible, because once you graduate and you get into a job, you sometimes, She was planning to buy some other make, a hatch.
Right.
But he was very happy with WagonR. We told them this is a new WagonR, bigger, better. She bought the WagonR, which otherwise we would not never have approached. So technology does get you some practical direct results. It's not just about doing things in a good and efficient way, but also to get the results that you want. And that's what we are trying to do.
One of the biggest questions I have in my mind is, you make a car for every Indian, north, south, east, west, and India is a large country. How do you decide, what kind of research goes on to decide what is the right product, a new product that is upcoming, for example?
Right path.
I think it's a very important question and a very difficult one to answer, because India is a really diverse country. And diversity is not just geography. It's also about almost different cultures, different usages, different economic strata. What we have found is, as markets grow, and this is a global phenomenon, you will see emergence of sub-segments. And it is this emergence of sub-segments that you have to be conscious of. And if you know the customers, you should be able to find out those emerging segments and be there. And I think one of the key things for Maruti Suzuki was to have that wide network of dealerships, the really close contact with customers that we had, and that could make us understand those changing trends. Then we introduced the Swift.
Oh.
And people said, यार तुम्हारे पास Zen है, Alto भी आ गई थी जब तक, Alto है, 800 है, अब Swift क्या करेगी? There was a segment which was emerging, individual who wanted great performance. And here was the Swift. It really broke all
It became
records.
the heartthrob of the nation.
Heartthrob of the nation, it still is. It's the only car which has got IQT 3 times.
Right.
Then when we got in the Brezza, people said it will not succeed because nobody wanted a small SUV. It is not just about sitting in a room and thinking what segments will emerge. You see lots of data.
Correct.
It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of deliberation. Then we decide which space and therefore what type of product will appeal. And that's how we make successful products.
I'm still stuck
Yes.
at the Swift. So,
True auto journalist.
yeah, so I still remember I used to work as a trainee mechanic in Maruti, automotive showroom in New Bombay. And I still remember the Swift just got launched back then. And we were fascinated by it. Even the workshop people were like, looked at it and we were like, wow. And it got a lot of young people to the fold, right, for Maruti Suzuki. So that's like you're taking vaccinations, right? And now we need a booster shot, for example. Turbo petrol engines, right? Do you see that as a need today?
I think there is a segment emerging which is looking for superior performance.
Yes.
The thrill of a turbo.
He's one of them, I think. But anyway,
I think both of us.
both of you are.
I think we are trying to ask here, will you please plonk a turbo in the Swift? We both are ready to buy it.
Yes.
So we have to see how many such people exist. Of course, we would love to make cars for just the two of you, but it doesn't make business sense. When we think it makes business sense, when there are many people like you, then definitely we would go into that.
Okay, so we were talking about the Swift getting a turbo or not. Let's talk about Kitsashi. There still are ardent fans of the Kitsashi. Any chance of getting that back?
No, I don't think so, because Kizashi, remember, was actually imported.
Yes.
And it never really did well because it was expensive. It's very difficult to import cars to India because you have to pay a very high duty. It never had those volumes for localization. I don't think there is a possibility of Kizashi coming back.
The Grand Vitara, fantastic, all-wheel drive. How did you come to a conclusion where other manufacturers are thinking, we don't need all-wheel drive?
Yeah.
How did you come to the conclusion that the Grand Vitara will get one? And what would be your elevator pitch for the Grand Vitara? It's just got so many things going for it.
The good thing about the Grand Vitara, and I think outstanding thing, is that it is not one vehicle. It is a range of SUVs. And that range is very important, because I was telling you, as when a segment becomes large, you see the emergence of different needs, specific needs. So you start with the mild hybrid, which is both the two-wheel drive and the four-wheel drive and the automatic transmission. You also have the strong hybrid, the intelligent electric hybrid, as we call it. When you specifically ask about the all-grip, which is the four-wheel drive technology, we also have seen that in India, that segment is also emerging. It's about currently, I think, 7-8% of the overall demand which you have seen so far for the Grand Vitara. But I think it should go up.
Should we dial this up now? I think it's a little hard questions. Yeah, he's able to answer everything splendidly. So hard questions. Hard
Yeah,
questions.
okay.
Let's look tough too.
Journalist.
Yes.
One of the biggest pain points for Maruti Suzuki in the past few years has been safety. We know for a fact that whenever, say for Maruti Suzuki, for you, all these cars are like your babies, right? When people, especially in social media, they talk about tin can and sheet metal, patla hai, and all those things. Obviously, it's hurting, but is it really a problem or a perception issue?
Yeah, so I would say largely it's a perception issue. And I'll explain why. For example, you just mentioned tin can, which really refers to probably thinner body sheets. But you know, the technology of materials is such that you can have thinner sheets with greater torsional stiffness. That's what we have. We are using special steels which give you great torsional stiffness, but at the same time light. Lightness is required for fuel efficiency, of course, but it also is stronger than the thicker materials that some other manufacturers might be using. Why do people get hurt in a car accident when it has an impact? Impact energy gets passed on to the occupants either through the steering or directly through the metal. So if you have a crumple zones which takes this impact and consumes that energy and does not transmit it to the occupant, it's actually a better way because it has absorbed all the energy and not allowed it to transmit it to the occupant. So that I believe a lot of education is required for this.
Awareness needs to be spread around. A car's job in an accident is actually to take the beating and keep the occupant safe.
Absolutely. What happens in case there is an accident? Seat belt, for example. Similarly, airbags, they help us to avoid injuries because they keep you in position after the accident. But there are things which you need to do to prevent accident. What are those? We believe one, it is education, which in our country is really lacking. Whether you have to follow the traffic rules or not have distracted driving. Those are the 4 E's actually. Second is enforcement. So you may have seat belts and the seat belt reminder, but 70% people don't wear seat belts. Third, of course, is engineering, which is of engineering of vehicles and also of engineering of roads, road signs, the condition of the road. You know, you have to have these E's in place if you have to improve safety. We are, for example, for education, we are having about more than 500 training schools. Even for enforcement, we are helping. If you look at in Delhi, for example, and many places actually, we have been interacting with the local traffic police for providing those cameras which will change the behavior of consumer because they know somebody is watching. And that's very important.
And that changes everything.
So we are helping in that enforcement also. All the stakeholders have to get together. It's not just about engineering of vehicle alone, although obviously it's very important. I said enforcement.
And education of the driver, of course. That is active safety.
So sir, we just spoke about the Grand Vitara. So where the industry is going crazy behind electrics, but Maruti Suzuki is still focusing on CNG and now strong hybrid with the Grand Vitara. Why is that?
I mean, I'll be very direct and frank of how we see the scenario folding. I think there is generally a consensus in the industry going forward that there will be a large-scale adoption of EVs in response to the various environment measures that governments across the world are doing, including India. But where the consensus does not seem to hold is that when it is going to happen. And our estimate is that it's probably around 2030, we may have a situation where we have about 13 to 17% of the passenger vehicles being electric. The cost of acquisition is pretty high at this stage because the battery cost is very high, as you know. Almost 50% of the EV cost is battery cost. The second is obviously the charging infrastructure. Lack of charging infrastructure is leading to what is known as range anxiety, where consumers feel whether I should. And these are two factors, I believe, are sort of restricting the adoption of EV. And that is why we have said that while we build this ecosystem, our EVs should come in the financial year 24-25. And the other thing is that if you look at projections to 2030, almost 38 million cars will be sold in India. Cumulatively, 1 million car will be electric vehicles out of those 38 million. That is the projection. So what do you do about 37 million cars? 1 million, okay, you have taken care of, but you are selling actually 38 million cars. So what do you do about those 37 if you want to make a difference to the environment? So how do you do that? One, increase the fuel efficiency of existing ICE vehicles. It's an easy conclusion. What do you do to reduce carbon prints? Obviously increase fuel efficiency. One, we are doing that. If you see like Celerio, 25 kilometers, Vitara, 28 kilometers to the liter, these are like exceptional fuel efficiency. Second, we are also exploring other fuel categories like the CNG. Because CNG is a clean fuel, very little particulate emissions there. We are the market leaders there. 10 out of our 15 models have CNG.
Y'all are looking at flex fuels as well.
Third, you rightly said flex fuel, where you have a blended ethanol, blended fuel, which, a higher percentage of ethanol. Currently it's 10%. Then you could have biogas, for example. Some companies are also exploring, as you know, hydrogen fuel cells, etc. So we need to do something for those 37 million cars, and that's what we are focused on. The other thing, and I think that's also very important for all your audience to know, is we believe that the road to electric vehicles in India will be via electrification. So electrified vehicles will lead to electric vehicles. It has to be through strong hybrids. The powertrain components of strong hybrids and of electric vehicles, there is a lot of commonality. So if you have larger volumes of hybrids, you can get localization of those powertrain components, which will help you bring down the cost for the electric vehicles, which will promote the volumes, which will further bring localization, which will further, and it will be a nice cycle to have. And that's one reason why also for battery localization, we have very recently invested about 8,700 or 8,400 crores. It is with the objective that ultimately we will bring down the cost of acquisition, which should help this getting into a virtuous cycle. Right now, it's that we are missing that cycle.
You've put these things so clearly on the table, so pellucidly. On behalf of the audience, I would like to thank you once again for giving us this time. This interview is not over until two things. One, rapid fire questions, that will be quick. And second, all those young folks, people like me, like him, who are hearing you speak, one advice to them for life. So we'll start with rapid fire question. Looks or performance?
Performance.
Books or movies?
Books.
Sachin or Sehwag?
Sachin.
Virat or Rohit?
Rohit.
Celerio or Wagoner?
Wagoner. Great use of space, practical, engineered, well, both, I can say.
Cricket or football?
Cricket.
SUV or sedans?
SUVs.
Car or motorcycle?
Cars.
Combustion engines or EVs?
EVs.
Talent or experience?
A bit of both, I think. In talent, probably.
Wonderful.
Analog or digital?
Digital.
Ameya or Rohan?
Both, I think. That's the most difficult. That's the most difficult. You should have added none of the above also.
Next time around when we meet.
Yeah.
Yes. The chimney 5-door that is downstairs somewhere. I'm pretty sure, guys, everyone in the room, we are pretty sure it's down there. I'd put a bet with him. I've wagered a bet that I will get to know the price for the chimney.
You know what? I think this elaborate setup that we have had, I think it was largely to get to this final question on the chimney prices. So we haven't yet fixed the price. We are in the process of finalizing our marketing plans for the chimney, and definitely you will be the first two guys to know when we finalize.
I think that does it.
That's
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shashank San.
you.
One piece of advice to all those who are watching.
Passion, energy, and hard work. I think there's no substitute for these three things. So it's not just for automobile, it's for any area one is working in.
I would like to end it on this note.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.